There are off years. Who gets that hall pass? Any of the names I've just mentioned? Or is it only those ones that did not disappoint? And that is a short list. Maybe only 3 names long, in fact. We've got a few minutes for phone calls right now. 604-280-MOJO, 280-6656, star 692 on your cell phone, or 1-866-444-6656. Plenty of calls coming up in the Canucks lunch as well. John Shorthouse is going to join us in the 12 o'clock hour to discuss what happened last night, what happened this season, and where we go from here. But Andrew, go ahead. Thanks for waiting. Welcome to Mojo Sports Radio.
I live in Victoria. I'm from Ottawa, so I'm a Senators fan through and through. But I listen to the Mojo every day when I'm driving around.
Good on you. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. And I find Vancouver to be almost as Toronto is with the Maple Leafs, in that they are always convinced that Vancouver can go to the Cup every single year. And I was just listening to Chance and Chumps before this, and they said that the fellow that runs the show said that he thought that they were a contender this year, but I don't know where that opinion comes from, to be honest with you, because the top line is Brendan Morrison's not a top line center. He had some good chemistry there for 1 year, 2 years with Naslin and Bertuzzi, but that's all gone. Cancucks never proved anything to anyone, not in Tampa Bay, not in Vancouver. In fact, he proved that he probably couldn't handle pressure when he let in that red line shot from Nicholas Lidstrom. And I just don't see where this Canucks. Dave Notice is another good example, in that he lived in the shadow of Brian Burke for years and years and years and years. And does he really have the muster to build this team or rebuild this team, whatever it takes, And I just don't think Vancouver's there. And the fans and the media in Vancouver always seem to think that the Canucks are the best team in the NHL, and when they're not the best team in the NHL, they're the worst team in the NHL. And there's no media in there. There's no media.
Andrew, thanks for the call. Sorry to cut you off mid-sentence there. Try to find a lull there. I appreciate the phone call, Andrew. I'm going to disagree with most of what you said, in that we're going to have a lot of hindsight today. We're going to have a lot of looking back and wondering what they could have done differently. But one thing I don't think is safe ground right now is looking at how this team started this year. Opening night in the NHL, were there some of you that were calling us on October the 5th and saying this team isn't it? Yep, there were a couple. And those of you right now are thinking that you should buy lottery tickets right now, thinking you can predict the future. But if you had taken a poll continent-wide on the potential for a winning season for the Vancouver Canucks this year, if you had taken a poll, what would the results of that poll have been? That is a pretty darn good team taken to the ice. I don't think that opening night is fair game for criticism. I really don't. That is purely hindsight being 2020. The resumes of the opening night roster said to most people that know about hockey that is a good team. Should adjustments have been made along the way? That's where you can start to criticize. October the 5th, I don't think it's fair game. Wayne, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if Babyface Donis is listening right now, because to me...
I highly doubt it, but go ahead.
Yeah, to me, it looks like he's got a baby face on him. I would have liked to have seen what probably Burke would have done, to storm into the dressing room and throw a trash can and break a few hockey sticks and say, hey, come on, guys, either get your act together or you could look for other jobs, because I'm telling you, it doesn't seem that he would do that. I mean, he comes on your show yesterday, and sure, it's your show, and he says, you ask him, so how are you? Oh, I'm fine. So how do you feel today? I'm pretty good. Sure, he's not fine and feeling pretty good today. But I hope I would like, to see happen is, A, sign the Twins, sign Carter, B, give all the contract, and C, sign Jovanovski. Those would be the good things that he could do. As far as the rest, blow up the team, blow up the core really good, because it stinks. It really stinks. And the cancer stick, you're gone.
Wayne, thanks for the call. You know what? And the names you mentioned, I think you named probably the 5. When I was saying the guys that you, without a doubt, expect back next season, you've named the 5 guys that are on my short list. Like the no-doubters that are on this roster next year. And I didn't know that I'd be including Ed Jovanovski's name on that list. I really didn't. It's become more clear in the last week that his name is definitely on that list. But you're right, I don't know that it's past the 5 names you mentioned. The without a doubters. Man, full phone board here on a holiday Friday. Love to see it. Where should I go here? Maple Leaf Dave, go ahead. Got to be quick.
Blake, as usual, always enjoying the program, and Happy Easter there to you. When I look at it, I hope a lot of the Canuck fans set the alarm early this morning, got out there on the golf greens to beat the Canuck players. But, it seems to me that the media in general in this town hasn't looked at one issue that I think is going to be coming up, and they've implied that there's this stability at the top, between McCaw and Aquilini. Do the names Ghilardi and Beattie ring a bell? Because there's going to be a hell of a messy lawsuit coming up for those 2 guys after what Aquilini, one of the 3 amigos, pulled out on them. So, you're going to have major problems there. But as far as the Canuck team, the suffering they went through then, it's like that pet that you own when you're a kid and the parents took it to the vet and they had to put it down. To make the fans suffer like this for the last week was unbearable. And it's same with the Leafs. You can't even put them down. I don't know why they're still in the playoff hunt. Go and figure. What can you say about that? And also, I feel sorry for you, Blake. As you say, you got a couple of young kids and so on. It's tough. You can't get out of the house. You got to wait 9 or 10 weeks till we get that wonderful single-A baseball in this village of a town. Then you got to wait 2 months until the Lions, etc., and so on. But I think I got the solution because I've heard more than one caller phone up.
Okay, quickly, give me the solution, Dave.
Well, it's simple. It's rehire Pat Quinn, and we can start a 5-year program because that's what he had before. I remember when the Canucks hit 500, he says, "Isn't it wonderful? We've hit 500." And I said, "Yes, so did Sir Evan Hillary and Tennis Narkai, and maybe they should have quit halfway up Mount Everest." It's a sad comment. Maybe we're the Chicago Cubs, the L.A. Clipper town.
Dave,
I don't know.
Gotta cut you off here, Dave, but good little rant today, and anytime somebody feels sorry for me, I feel like I've done my job. Rob, go ahead. Rob, you there? Hey, go ahead.
I just want to say that this city is sort of, used to Cinderella teams, and, after every season they just want to, change the uniforms and change the core. But what I think we need to do is we got a great group of players there. We just need to add a few more players and go back to those original uniforms. That'll do it.
You're keeping the core together if you're Dave Nonis?
Yeah, you've got to just bring in a few more players, you know what I mean, and let all, get used to it and, let the team gel, you know what I mean? You can't just, rearrange the team every year and expect to win something.
Wow, a rare call for patience. Thanks for the call. Bill, last one before the break. The rest of you stay where you are.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
Yeah, I've been watching the Canucks since they came into the league as a young guy, and I've seen the ups and downs all through their history, and the best word to describe this organization has been inconsistent. And I think, too, even in their scouting, they seem to have missed really top-line players, and many times we have a lot of players that come up from the farm that really aren't good enough to probably, some of them, even be in the NHL. As far as the core makeup of the team, no question, it's got to go. The players that I would focus on signing for sure would be around the defensive core. I think we've got a really good defense. We missed, Salo, Jovanovski injured. Without those guys next year, even Oland, we'd be in really big trouble. So our defense, I think, is a major signing, and the next thing we got to do is get a top-line center. Where we're going to get that from, who knows? Because you trade Bertuzzi or he goes, who's going to want?
Thanks. I gotta cut you off there. Thanks for the thoughts. We'll take more calls coming up after the break. We're also going to talk with Jeff Merrick in Toronto, host the Leafs Lunch.
Now, a 7:30 sports break. Here's Jeff Taylor.
The fact that it's Good Friday, just about the only good thing for Canuck fans today. This, the morning after Vancouver's up-and-down season finally came to a merciful end last night. Steve Tambolini on the Mojo Morning Show talks about what went wrong.
We didn't have that momentum this last month to really kind of push us that things were happening in a positive way. It seemed like us and Edmonton were, barely treading water there for some time. Like we were manufacturing ways at times to make sure that it didn't happen. We were up the last few games. We were up, but continually found ways to turn pucks over.
Nothing really left now but damage control. Marcus Naslund on the future of this hockey club.
No, I think I don't even. I don't even want to think about that. I think that's left for the guys upstairs to do.
And taking a look at the NHL schedule tonight, just one game on the go. Tampa Bay hits the road for Carolina with the Lightning trying to build on their 2-point cushion for 8th in the East. You're listening to the Blake Price Show on Mojo Sports Radio 730, home of the Vancouver Giants. I'm Jeff Taylor.
Let's go back to the phone lines, though. 604-280-MOJO, 280-665-6*692 on your cell phone, or 1-866-444-6656. Ryan, thanks so much for waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. All the people, there's a lot of people saying we should build around the Sedins, but I just want to bring up some stats to you. You know, the last 17 games, Henrik Sedin had 1 goal, and in the last 7, Daniel had 1 goal in the last 7 games. These are guys that are going to take us to the Stanley Cup next year.
Well, I don't think anybody's expecting the Stanley Cup next year.
No, but just even take us to the playoffs. Like the Sedins, I mean, you can't build around them. I think they're second-line career players at best, but I don't think they're capable of anything more than that. I think the first thing we got to do is move Brendan Morrison. I think we got to get rid of Matt Cook and Dan Clucci. I think with those combined salaries, I think we could get a pretty good top-line center, maybe a Mark Savard type player to play with Bertuzzi and Nazem, but I don't think Daniel and Henrik Sedin should be our top-line players.
Getting some new ideas today, and a couple of people saying keep Todd Bertuzzi. Very interesting. I would have thought that there'd be an outpouring of grief in that regard, but some support coming. Harmon, thanks for waiting. Go ahead. Welcome to Mojo.
Hey. First off, just for everybody who calls in, we no longer have Burke. We have Nonis. If you want to follow Burke, go to Anaheim. And then second of all, who to sign? I say he signed the Twins, and I think Sal's a free agent, is he not?
Sammy Salo? Not that I don't know about that.
I think they gave him a 1-year contract, was it not?
You know what? I forgot. I haven't heard much discussion of Sammy Salo, so that leads me to believe that he's locked up, but I'll double check on that.
Well, if he's locked up, then it's fine. And otherwise, I think you give all the contract, but why not see if you can get a guy like Luongo?
Yeah, it was a 2-year deal for Salo in August, so no, he's okay.
Okay, then that's fine. But why not go after, see if you can get Luongo in a trade or something before the draft?
You're still barking up the goaltending tree, huh? Okay, well, we'll see. I mean, I think that Alex Auld has given enough to the Vancouver Canucks that he is going to be given another look, and the fact that they've got Mika Noronen, they've got Dan Clucci. I don't think there's going to be a goaltending trade. I really don't. I'd be blown away if that happens, considering now the glut of goaltenders here in Vancouver, albeit one that didn't seem to get any looks down the stretch and one that is coming off of a major injury. But again, I'm done predicting. I'm done predicting with this team. They refuse to abide by any sort of logic, it would appear. Everybody has their own school of thought, and I don't know. I'm done. I have no idea what will happen. Jake, go ahead.
A couple of quick comments, and I'll hang up. Sign the Sedin, sign Jovo. If they're trading Burt, I think they should go for Chara or Forsberg, and it was known as his first season to evaluate, and I think that's what he did. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jake. They don't have to trade for Zdeno Chara. He's an unrestricted free agent, so they could just sign him. They'd have to trade Bertuzzi somewhere else to make the room, of course. But Wade Redden and Zdeno Chara are two big carrots in the Ottawa Senators organization that will attract a lot of interest, to be sure. 604-280-MOJO, 280-665-6*692 on your cell phone. Graham, you're next on Mojo. Go ahead.
Hi, am I up?
Yep, you are.
Okay, a couple comments. About Bertuzzi, tons of skill. I don't think he has the maturity to be a successful player. I don't think he has the maturity to handle his success or handle his failures, because I watch him. I think he's the kind of guy that cannot handle this league-wide booing, this hatred towards him. He's a guy that loves to get the attention, loves to be the all-star, and I think this booing, this hatred for him is affecting him. I don't think he has the maturity to handle his failures or success, despite his great skills. That's my call on Bertuzzi. I mean, you watch him behave out there. He behaves like a 4-year-old kid that's going to have a tantrum. He has no sense of composure, and it gets the best of him, and he gets away from his game. Secondly, a captain. Naslund's a great player. What do we need in a captain? We need a guy who can go out there in one shift and change the tempo of a game. What can Marcus Naslund do in one shift? He can score. What can Jerome McGinley do in one shift? He can score. He can drop his gloves. He can smash a guy through the boards. And I think those are the things that a leadership should have. An elite European goal scorer, if he's not scoring, how can he lead? He's a rah-rah guy in the room. But on the ice, we need a guy like Jovo who can score, who can go out there and put a guy through the boards, drop the gloves, and just get the team cranked.
Graham, stay with us here. I agree with everything you said about Todd Bertuzzi. I think that he's got so much going for him, and that's why I think that a separation from the Canucks is so key for him, because I really do think he could actually carve himself out a nice career, maybe somewhere else, if he just gets some peace in his life, I think.
Absolutely.
But with regards to the captaincy, I think the San Jose Sharks have taught us something, and sort of supported what I've been saying a lot this season, and that it doesn't need to be the captain, the guy at the C that leads the team necessarily, that leads the rah-rah. That Patrick Marleau is a lot like Marcus Naslund. They are only going to say so much, and they can only lead by example on the ice. Joe Thornton does not have the C in San Jose, but he is that guy that does what everybody wants out of the captain here in Vancouver. It doesn't have to be a captain. Get one guy in the room that is like that and let him do that stuff. He doesn't have to have the C stitched on his jersey. I think Joe Thornton and his relationship with the Sharks and relationship with Patrick Marleau showed us that the C only means so much. Just bring good guys into the room, and chemistry and leadership will happen naturally.
Yeah, I guess part of what I'm saying too is you look at a guy like a Scotty Walker, or even what we see at Burroughs. A little guy goes out there, and what one shift can do to an entire game and do to a team. I think if that can be part of the captain's role too, then you're really going to win, and then you're going to have a really great leader. So
thanks, Graham.
I agree with you too, though.
Thanks, Graham. Bruce, go ahead. Welcome to the Mojo.
Yeah, I was just listening to you about the Canucks.
Yes.
You always promote the Canucks and you promote the Giants, right?
Yes, we do. Well, I don't know if we promote the Canucks per se. I mean,
you realize there's another playoff team in the Lower Mainland?
The Burnaby Bulldogs, Burnaby Express with a big win last night in the Fred Page Cup. Yeah, we talked about it all day yesterday. If you listen to the show regularly, you'd know that.
Yeah, I do, but that's about the only time you ever do, because any other time I never hear you talking about them, and that goes for a lot of the guys I know.
Bruce, you're not listening. We talked about it with Cliff Ronning yesterday. We had Darcy Rhoda on the show of the Burnaby Express. You know what? Listen to the show. You'd know that. Rob, go ahead. Welcome.
Yeah, hi, Blake. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
As for the caller, this is the Canucks, I guess. As a big fan, I've been a fan since their inception. It's a pretty hard day to swallow, especially since I've been a diehard fan this year, and to actually make it into the playoffs and actually get the Stanley Cup, the 12-year cycle thing and all that. Accepting that they're not making the playoffs is really hard to take, especially since last year we were without hockey, so this year going into the playoffs without the Canucks, I mean, it's going to be really hard to watch any hockey. And I'm really deep, and I really would like to show how angry and how upset I am after listening to them time after time after time say the same thing, that, we're going to take care of it, we're going to get you guys there, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to let this out to all the fans who have tickets for tomorrow night's game. Don't show up. Just simply don't show up. The players themselves said, hey, guys, you guys haven't shown up all year round, or you've shown up in spurts when you wanted to, and we're not going to show up for you. And the last thing I'd like to say is I have done a good job being inserted in a position where Brian Burke should never have been canned. And I think Nonis should sign Jovanovski. He's the one player that sort of came out after injury, and basically, boom, he's
emotion,
the heart and soul.
Emotion, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's showing he's a true Canuck, and he's a captain of a team, and that's what I like to see. I mean, Trevor Linden also should be signed. He should be basically given that opportunity to retire a Canuck, because he is a genuine Canuck.
And retire in the playoffs. Give Linden one last shot. He's proven he's got at least one more year. Well, he's probably got one more year left in his body. I'd love to see London come back as well. He gets an incomplete grade, I think, for this season, just from underutilization. Thanks for the phone call. We'll take lots more calls coming up in the body of the Canucks lunch after we relive the nightmare from last night and talk with John Shorthouse as well. So we'll let you simmer for an hour or so.
The Canucks with a day off today, trying to make sense of a disastrous regular season collapse, trying to figure out how a team that was supposed to contend for the Stanley Cup couldn't even make the playoffs. Brendan Morrison.
We had a lot of chances. We had a lot of chances to take advantage of the situation here, and we never did. Saying earlier that our inability to hold leads was, terrible. Down the stretch, and ultimately that's, I think, what did us in.
The Canucks wrap up the regular season tomorrow night against the Colorado Avalanche, and then the bullets could start really flying. Rumor has it Mark Crawford could be at the top of that list. Steve Tambellini on the Mojo Morning Show says he's not ready to go there.
It's not the proper time to discuss anybody right now. It's just that we're disappointed it didn't happen last night. David's got things where he needs to figure out as far as listening to his organization and where it needs to go, and it'll happen. So let's just see what happens.
Blake Price. Lunch is served.
Lunchtime. I'm sorry, but the office is closed for lunch.
Mojo Sports Radio 730 presents.
All right, let's get started on lunch.
The Canucks Lunch in association with PokerRoom.tv. Now, here's your host, Blake Price.
Good afternoon, is it? Yeah, sure, why not? To say we didn't see this coming would be a tad bit hypocritical. Welcome to the Canucks Lunch. It is the day after the Canucks are eliminated from playoff competition in the National Hockey League. We will get to your thoughts coming up later in the hour at 604-280-MOJO. Keep the numbers in mind. John Shorthouse is going to join us in a little bit as well to debrief the day, the night, and season that has been. We will also relive what happened last night in the Canucks Rewind. But first, let's get underway with the day as we always do with the 5-minute major.
The Canuck Lunch presents the 5-minute major. All the NHL news you need to know in 5 minutes. The clock starts now.
Well, it is over. Not much left for the Canucks to do or prepare for. As a result, practice was canceled today. The players were given an entire day off to think, left to ponder what happened this season, what happened the night before. But the bigger question undoubtedly was, what happened this season? Here's Brendan Morrison.
Personally, the lowest point in my career professionally, and I'm sure a lot of other guys feel the same way. Not only did we let each other down in the organization, the whole city of Vancouver, and it's not a very good feeling.
Marcus Naslund.
Yeah, no, it's a very disappointing finish to a disappointing season for us. I don't know. I think we gave a good effort. I don't know if it's just not good enough to get the job done.
Marcus, are you coming back? What about Todd, Brendan? What's happening here?
No, I think I don't even. I don't even want to think about that. I think that's left for the guys upstairs to do.
So the Colorado Avalanche are the guests tomorrow night at GM Place in the mean-nothing game, and the Canucks might see the promising youngster for the Avs, Wojtek Wolski. The Avs plan to recall Wolski for the playoffs after the Brampton Battalion were eliminated from the OHL playoffs yesterday. Just one game in the NHL tonight, and it's a big one. Carolina and the Lightning, the Thrashers and Leafs playing amazing hockey right now. Atlanta just 2 back of Tampa. Toronto only 3 back of the Lightning, and all 3 teams have 3 games left going into tonight's action. The Lightning loss would open the door for a final week rush at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and who would have thought that a couple of weeks ago? Meanwhile, Sens netminder Dominik Hasek is back on the ice at practice yesterday after he only lasted 5 minutes with the team yesterday before shutting it down. He's not going through the motions either. Hasek is taking shots from teammates on the ice today. Despite being a little dinged up down the stretch, Sidney Crosby will don the Maple Leafs this season after all. He didn't get the chance in the Olympics, but he will at the World Championships, which begin May 5th in Latvia. Crosby, no stranger to international competition, of course, representing Canada at the World Juniors, winning a silver medal in 2004 and a gold medal in 2005. Even after the ownership shuffle was announced in Phoenix, the Great One's future remains up in the air. Wayne Gretzky still has a minority stake in the Coyotes, of course. That won't change, but the coaching position is still one he's unsure of. After the Coyotes season ends Sunday, Gretzky plans to play in a charity golf tournament in South Carolina and then attend the International Azalea Festival, April 24th to 30th in Norfolk, Virginia, where his daughter Paulina will be Queen of the Azaleas. Gretzky says, quote, "I'll make a decision sometime after that." Of course, don't let the Queen of the Azaleas get in the way of your hockey career. New majority owner Jerry Moyes says it's his full intention to have Gretzky back behind the bench. Blue Jackets forward Nikolai Zherdev may not play again this season. It was hoped that Zherdev, who's missed the last 3 games, would be able to play by the weekend, but his knee just isn't responding as the team had hoped. A bit of a soap opera developing in Minnesota as they get set for another non-playoff year themselves. Restricted free agent to be Marian Gaborik has been complaining about his role and ice time again, and that led to a 15-minute diatribe from Jacques Lemaire to the media yesterday, jumping to his own defense and denying that he's pushing Gaborik to do anything. So why does Gaborik think otherwise? Well, the head coach, Lemaire, says, quote, "I don't believe he's saying that. It's perception. What people ask him, how they ask. He's young. I read the article that was in the paper. I said, he speaks like that because he's not mature. He's stuck with words. People push him to say this." The media. In the end, the newest stall in the NHL couldn't be in the Rangers lineup after all, and it wasn't anything to do with immigration. This time, fog at the airport in Sudbury, Massachusetts, in fact, preventing Stahl from making it to Pittsburgh in time to take part in New York's morning skate, and so the 19-year-old defenseman wasn't in the lineup against the Penguins. They'll try maybe before the end of the regular season. Meanwhile, weird story from the crease in last night's game. Kevin Weeks, remember him? Got into a beef with one of the on-ice personnel in the third period last night when the worker who comes out during television timeouts and cleans the crease from snow moved Weeks' goal stick from the top of the net 2 times. And then finally picked it up and threw it behind the goal. Weeks, like a lot of goalies, very routine-oriented and very weird himself, and leaves his stick atop the goal during the timeouts. Weeks said after the second time the worker moved his stick, he asked him what he was doing, and the worker accused him of trying to hit him, and so he threw his stick off the goal net. Weeks complained to the refs, and the worker didn't come back for the final TV timeout. Kevin Weeks, right there in a nutshell. That is the 5-minute major for today. Let's get to the business, the foremost thoughts of all of you as Canuck fans. What happened last night? Let's do the rewind.
The Canucks Lunch presents.
Cool, it's a time machine.
Canucks Rewind.
Well, pretty simple. The Canucks couldn't secure their playoff fate last night at the tank in San Jose. What they could do is keep themselves alive. They knew that a win, heck, even a point, get into overtime, and Saturday's game versus the Colorado Avalanche was going to be worth something. They also knew at the time the puck dropped, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks and the Edmonton Oilers were locked at 1 goal apiece midway through their game. Then the puck dropped in San Jose.
Jovanovski with the drive off the draw, scores! Canucks draw first blood. Just shy of the 5-minute mark. Jovanovski through traffic. It's 1-0.
The key is winning the draw in the offensive zone. We talk about face-offs, especially in big games like this. The Canucks win it, and I think it was Bertuzzi, was it not, that won the draw, Shorty? Right back to Jovocop and Ed Jovanovski with that booming shot.
Down the boards to Thornton. Joe Thornton to the goal line to Chichu. Slides behind the Vancouver goal. Now centers, one-timer, score. Matt Carl. Set up from behind the goal by Chichu. And the Sharks make good on their third power play. It's a 2-1 game, or 1-1 game, pardon me.
Well, again, the passing down low, and it's going to count. It looked to me for a minute like I think there might be a dispute here.
It's a goal. So there you go. There's the decision. We'll try to set up quickly. Thornton on the right wing. 5 seconds to go. Cuts across the goal line. Centers. All made a great right pad save on Patrick Marleau. And now time expires. All did the splits stop Marleau. And it's a 1-1 tie after 20 minutes here in San Jose.
Yeah, that's a brilliant save. That's his best of the period. It comes with 1 second left on the clock, too. This would have been a backbreaker had this one gone in.
1-1 after 1 during that first intermission. My friends and I retire to the kitchen, grab a new beer. And I have the brainchild to go to NHL.com just to get the up-to-the-second update on the Oilers game with the Ducks. Tied at that point. What were the Ducks doing? Go to NHL.com. You can listen to either the home radio broadcast or the away radio broadcast. I went with the home. And literally 20 seconds after I tuned in during that first intermission for the Canucks game, this is what we hear.
Stronger. Pass up the middle, Stoll. In across the line, Hemsky. Cuts in, shoots, scores! Alex Hemsky with 33 seconds remaining in the third period. Another dramatic goal, and the Oilers have a 2-1 lead. That could be the goal of the season.
With that in mind, the Canucks know they've got to win this thing. They've got to get a point. And so the second period begins.
Hold by Jovanovski. But now he's tied up at the blue line. Canucks hold the puck in. Here's Bertuzzi moving in front. Center, score! Brendan Morrison set up by Bertuzzi. Tipped it in. And on the power play, the Canucks take a 2-1 lead as Marcus Naslund embraces Morrison in a bear hug.
Well, they've been deadly on the power play, and that's good because they're not getting it 5-on-5, but they sure are on the power play.
Thornton moves in on the right side. Feeds into the high slot. Pricing with a low shot wide, and Auld was slow to recover. Chichu poked in the carom off the inboards. As Auld got caught out of the net challenging the original shot, and Jonathan Chichu has tied the game at 2.
Well, you described it just exactly the way it is, Shorty. Auld gave everything on the initial shot, and when you do that, you end up completely out of position. And all Chichu did is go in with one hand on the stick and just pitch it by him.
Here's Jovanovski with the wrist shot in front. Bertuzzi on the rebound, scores! Todd Bertuzzi pulled it from the backhand to the forehand. He looks to the heavens after putting that puck in the net to make it 3-2 Vancouver.
Well, Bertuzzi wanted to bounce back with a big game here tonight, and he has. That's his third point of the night. He's been in on all of Vancouver's goals, 2 first assists, and now the go-ahead goal.
3-2 Canucks after 2 in the driver's seat. Surely, don't call me Shirley, surely they wouldn't give up another third period collapse. Surely.
He'll just lift the puck to center, right to Kyle McLaren, who sends the rush the other way again. In quickly on the left wing is Niemann. Cutting in on goal. Scores! Carney gave the puck away, and Niemann beat Jovanovski wide, beat Alex Auld. It's a 3-3 tie.
You know, this is a great goal. This really is a great goal. I love to see players who really go with this kind of determination to the goal.
15 seconds to go on the power play. Here's a long stretch pass. Thornton moving in on the right wing. Joe Thornton centers the puck. Quick shot. Score! Matt Carl! On another beautiful setup by Joe Thornton. And now the Canucks are on life support, trailing 4-3 in a game that must provide at least a point.
Well, what can you say? It all started with Nabokov. As he headmanned the puck, Joe Thornton got it. And then the perfect shot as Carl was able to just rifle it high.
Lead pass, Henrik missed it. Here's Chichu with the empty net. Passes ahead. Joe Thornton back to Chichu. Scores! For the first time in 5 seasons, the Canucks are going to be on the outside looking in. Jonathan Chichu's second of the game into the empty net. 5-3 San Jose.
The Canucks are out of it. Their season is over, and the Sharks come back with 3 unanswered goals in the third period and defeat Vancouver 5-3. That's it. It's over.
They'll count it down now. Dying seconds, horn sounds, and the Sharks, with their 7th consecutive victory, have moved into 5th place in the Western Conference. The dream is dead for the Canucks, folks. 1 game remaining, but it's meaningless now. The Edmonton Oilers have secured the final playoff spot in the Western Conference as the Canucks lose for the 6th time in 7 games, falling 5-3 here in San Jose.
Our last Canucks Rewind with those 2 voices a part of it. Thanks again to Tom Larscheid and John Shorthouse for their contributions to the Rewind all season long. When we come back, Shorty's here with us talking about what happened last night, what happened this season, and where the Canucks are going from here. Later on in the hour, your phone calls at 604-28-MOJO. Stick around. The Canucks lunch rolls on here on Mojo Sports Radio 730.
Alex Ault says everyone's feeling down.
Disappointing, and you know, it's one of those things that, you know, the guys care so much, and you know, when you look at all the stuff everyone had to put up with the last little while, and how much everyone tried to block that out and keep you know, bringing everything, and you know, you feel for a lot of guys in here what they had to go through, and you know, how hard they kept working, and no matter what.
Steve Tambolini, speaking on the Mojo Morning Show, says one thing's for sure: if you're going to blame someone, don't blame Alex Ault.
I was really impressed with what he did this year. You know, when you go back to when Danny was hurt, and to where the perception and the reality maybe of where Aldi was as far as performance and maturity in that, he's come a long ways. And more than not, he gave us a chance to win night in and night out with his last couple months of play. I think we're very pleased where Aldi was.
I don't even know how to explain it. It's just not a very good feeling right now. I don't know what's going to happen.
Nobody knows what's going to happen. Players, coach, maybe Dave Nonis knows. He said he had an idea a couple of weeks ago when I asked if he had a game plan already or if he was going to wait till it was definitely done. He said he had an idea, but you have to wait until the final moment before you make decisions as big as the ones Dave Nonis has got to make in this offseason. 604-28-MOJO will always be the number to call here. John Shorthouse is going to join us in a matter of minutes here, but Sean's been waiting patiently on the line there. So, Sean, I'll let you through right now. Go ahead, Sean.
How's it going, Blake?
Good.
Hey, I got to say, I'm a huge hockey fan, Blake, as I'm sure most of the listeners right now are.
Yep.
But for some reason, and I during the lockout, I was literally on TSN's website every day listening to what Burke and all those guys had to say. I thought the season would be the best hockey season ever. But even from the start, even when the Vancouver Canucks were winning, for some reason I wasn't getting as excited about it as I had in years past, and it surprised me because I was almost more excited to see what was going to happen in the lockout when we were getting hockey back. And as I got to the end of the season, something that shocked me, and I've been a fan for about 20 years here, since Trevor Linden put on that jersey. I didn't see any heart, and after last night's game, I was shocked with myself how much I didn't care that they didn't make the playoffs.
Well, what are you going to do with yourself for the next couple of weeks?
I have no idea. I was going through the lineup right now, and I still like hockey, and I'm wondering, who am I going to cheer for? But I'm almost more excited about the fact that we're going to see some changes on this team. And I think something that lost is that Bertuzzi is getting roasted, and rightfully so. The guy pooped in his own bed, to put it politely. But all of a sudden there's been this turn that maybe Crawford should stay. And I think people are mislooking the fact that this is a guy. I mean, every year there's been an excuse, from Naslin's broken leg to Kluche going out that, not in the middle of the playoffs, to that goal against Detroit, to Bertuzzi's suspension. The fact of the matter is that Crawford has not been able to rally that team, and I think it's coaching. And I hate to say it, even the fact that I wasn't passionate and worried about Bertuzzi, but maybe we should see what these guys can do with another coach.
Sean, I got to cut you off there. Thanks for the phone call, appreciate it. But Shorty's waiting on the line, so we should get to him here and hear his thoughts on the matter. The voice of the Vancouver Canucks joining us right now. Shorty, thanks for waiting. I apologize, but Sean had some stuff to get off his chest, as a lot of our callers do, as you can imagine.
You know what? Thanks for having me on. I can relate to what he's saying a little bit, and I think there's a reason for the emotion or lack thereof he's feeling this time around, because I really think that the way people view the Canucks has changed a lot. There was a time here in Vancouver when making the playoffs was just the greatest thing in the world, and that's what everybody wanted to see the team do. Now the bar has been raised so much higher that I think the reason you hear something like that out of Sean's mouth, like at the end, I just couldn't be bothered that they didn't make the playoffs, is because I think the feeling was that even if they snuck in, they weren't going to do a lot of damage, you know, and so people felt like, well, what's the bother? I mean, why bother?
My social calendar. That's the bother.
You know, like this isn't, you know, like the year where Jeff Courtnall had to score in Game 80 to sneak them into the playoffs past the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the greatest thing in the world because they were going to get to play for a week beyond the regular season. You know, people have higher expectations now.
No question.
And sneaking in and playing 4 or 5 playoff games just wasn't going to cut it. So I think that's one of the reasons people are kind of feeling that way and maybe aren't feeling quite as passionate about this team. And I agree with what he said earlier, too. You know, I just don't think this team ever hit top stride. Even when they came out of the gate at 8-1-1, even when they won 13 of their first 14 at home, we were still scratching our heads saying, geez, you know, it just doesn't seem the same.
Doesn't feel dominant, even though the stats were dominant, yeah.
But the win-loss was excellent early, but the way they were winning games and the number of wake-up calls, that was the thing that was bothering me. You know, their first wake-up call came in game number 4 of the season, and it was a 6-0 loss to Dwayne Rollison in the Minnesota Wild, just an absolute no-show. And it seemed like starting with that wake-up call, there had to be another one every couple of weeks or so.
Yeah,
and you know, it just didn't leave me with the best feeling.
Obviously, we're going to do a lot of second guessing. We're going to do a lot of looking back. 20/20 hindsight stuff is going to be used all day today. But one thing I'm not accepting today on the show, Shorty, is people saying, why didn't they do something to this team last summer? You know, this team, I saw this coming on this roster. I'm not accepting that. And the reason that I say that is I think most people in hockey thought that this was going to be a pretty good team. And the evidence we've dug up already, SI.com had them ranked 6th in the entire league. ESPN.com had them ranked 3rd in the entire league. NHL.com had such statements as this. The top line of Naslund, Morrison, and Bertuzzi ranks among the top lines in the NHL today. Back to that ESPN.com write-up, it said, the offense is all there. This was a scary good group in 03-04, and it's largely intact. I mean, this is a team that most hockey minds looked at, and that was from Jim Kelly, that particular ESPN, who's a pretty good hockey guy. Most hockey people looked at this roster and said, you know what? This is a pretty good team. This team could do something. So I'm not accepting opening night roster as being indication of what was going to happen.
No, I think you're right, and I think most people applauded Dave Nonis for trying to keep the team together and give them another shot. The only thing that you might have heard, and very quietly, from people around the team, but it wasn't raised as a major concern, just more of a curiosity, or I wonder how this will happen, is just the fact that they had been together so long. Would any kind of staleness or stagnancy pop in, given that you're looking at the same group, the same coach, and all that? But by and large, 99.9% of the people saw it as a positive, and the fact that the Canucks were supposed to have this cohesiveness out of the gate and be able to kind of steamroll their way through the early parts of the season, and it was to be to their advantage. But let's be honest here. When they started playing, they looked a lot of the time like guys who'd never played together before. Particularly, I mean, you talk about the top line. I mean, they looked like strangers.
Isn't that the truth? Like, they really never once, and I mean, they had games where they produced, but still within those games, I don't know that we can say there was one game where they had magic, where they had what they've had in the last 2-3 years.
It was different. There's no question. And it had started to slow down some the previous season. Let's be honest there, too. They were a bit removed from the glory run, if you will, when they really were unstoppable and the best line in all of the NHL. But this year, it just really never clicked. It really never did. There were nights where one guy or two guys were good, and by the end, they weren't playing together. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why it happened, but it just didn't work. What
were the concrete signals of the end? Do we look at the Dan Cloutier injury and say that was the first step?
You could, although I think Alex Auld played his heart out. I have a hard time pinning a lot of this on the play of the goaltender. Sure, he had off nights, as did everybody. The guys in front of him had more off nights than he did, though. That's my own personal opinion.
Mine too.
For me, it turned not so much on an injury. Obviously, the goaltender injuries or not the goaltender, pardon me, the injuries on the blue line didn't help. I mean, that's you lose a guy like Jovanovski and then Sami Salo and Matthias Olin for a short time. I mean, that you can't overcome that. You should still be able to make the playoffs, in my opinion. But that's a tough thing to overcome. But where it turned for me was over Christmas, and that's when all the warning signs we'd seen earlier in the season, the ones where they were getting by and they were still winning and they were putting up a pretty good win-loss total, and it didn't really matter because they were getting the results. That's where I think it started to crumble a bit. They came off 2 great games in the East. They played the Rangers at Madison Square Garden, the Flyers in Philadelphia. They beat them both. They came home, and this was on the heels, too, of, remember, the potential Stanley Cup final preview when the Canucks knocked off the Ottawa Senators in a shootout. So they had those 3 games in pretty quick succession. In December, everything was rolling right along, we thought, despite the earlier warning signs. They came home for a 6-game homestand, a chance to really make some hay, take absolute control not only of the division, but maybe the conference, and who knows, the NHL. And they promptly lost 5 in a row on home ice and had to salvage a win against Nashville just to get 1 victory out of the 6-game homestand. And then it continued on through the road trip that took them over New Year's. Jovanovski got hurt, couldn't play in the Minnesota game on New Year's Eve. They went into St. Louis and stubbed their toe again. That became a bit of a running gag this year, the Canucks and the Blues. To me, that was the point of the season where everything started to go sideways and then downhill.
Well, and that's another reason why I don't blame Alex Auld. He did not have a great final week here for sure, but at the same time, it's what his team put him in the position to be like in this final week of the season. And you look at that St. Louis series, and there's other games, of course, that you can go back through the season and go, what if they won that game? What if they'd won this game and that game and that game? They wouldn't be in this position that they're in today, which is out of the playoffs right now. And it's shocking. What did the final week of the season tell you about what this team might look like next year, about the character of this team? I look at Joe Thornton, a guy that doesn't have the C on his sweater, but a guy that was able to really be the leader of that San Jose Sharks team. What does that tell you about the makeup of this Canucks team and where you see them going?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, it depends how you want to boil down the games down the stretch. Was this a team bereft of leadership, or was it a team bereft of confidence and just was too fragile and couldn't deal with any kind of adversity? And I guess that comes down to having your leaders lead you through tough times too. Brendan Morrison said it last night. I mean, listen, we're not talking about a third-year expansion team or a group of young guys who are just sort of feeling their way through the NHL. We've been through these learning steps. This is our time to tap the experience that we've picked up in past years and win these games and put away teams in the third period. They played like the exact opposite of that. There's going to be changes. If that's what you want to boil down the question to, the question is where are they going to happen? And everything from top to bottom is going to be examined, and that's the way it should be. Every player, every position, every member of the front office staff, the coaching staff, everybody's going to be evaluated by somebody above them and also going to do some self-evaluation. I don't know where you start. I mean, if everybody's going to point behind the bench, that's just the nature of pro sports. I don't know that Mark Crawford shouldn't be given a chance to come back with a bit of a different roster. He's done a wonderful job here. He's by far the most successful coach in the history of the Vancouver Canucks. Has his message worn thin with some of the group, perhaps, and that's the risky run when you have somebody behind the bench for a long time, no matter who it is.
But one could argue the guys that have grown weary of that message are probably the guys that could be on the way out.
Right, and that's my point.
Yeah.
If you elect to keep Mark Crawford, obviously there's going to be changes to the roster. I think that if you elect to go that route, then you make more changes to the roster than perhaps if you decide to make a coaching change. But these are decisions Dave Nonis is going to have to make. I know he's a big supporter of Mark Crawford's, and why wouldn't you be? Look at his numbers. Look what he's done with his team. Look where he's taken them. He's over 100 wins ahead of number 2 on the list in terms of guys being behind the Vancouver Canucks bench. But that said, I mean, if he's going to stay, there's going to have to be some turnover.
Can you give me just a gut feeling, not a should? I want to ask you to editorialize and say who should go, but I'm confused in this regard because I think that one or both of Mark Crawford and Todd Bertuzzi are going to go, one or both. And you're right, the team has shown immense loyalty to Mark Crawford, but they've also been very, very loyal to Todd Bertuzzi. The Steve Moore stuff included, but just even on the ice, they've been very, very loyal, never to point a finger at Todd Bertuzzi and a misstep on the ice. That's what poses the biggest confusion for me, is that they seem to be very, very loyal to both of these guys. So I have trouble guessing which guy might go. Do you have a gut feeling on whose loyalty would win out?
I don't. I don't. I'll say this. I mean, Todd has not been the player he was when he earned the big contract for a while now. And whether or not that is indicative of a guy who needs a change of scenery or wants a change of scenery, I don't know. Boy, was he good last night, though. And that's the tantalizing thing when you see him play that
Always
way.
Has been, yeah.
But, it goes back a while now. You go back 95 games, he scored 25 goals. Would they benefit from maybe having a bit of a different look? Would it help Marcus Naslund? I don't know.
You also get something back for Todd Bertuzzi. You get rid of Mark Crawford, you get nothing back.
These are all questions that Dave Nonis is going to look at. I don't know where you. I don't know where you start, Blake. These are all. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at this roster and point at the guys that people are going to say, he's got to go first or he's got to go second. It's pretty obvious who the decisions are going to be made on. You think. The question is, I go back to what I was saying before. Which route do you decide to take? And is it going to be a major roster overhaul? Or is it going to be a minor roster overhaul and maybe a different voice leading them? I don't know which direction they're going to go. I
don't blame you for saying that, because I can honestly tell you, too, that this team defies prediction. I've said it all along.
Well, they certainly do on the ice.
Yeah.
If we can go back to the actual on-ice product and you wonder where it went wrong, and I mentioned a specific point in the schedule, but, less specifically than that, I just think there were too many nights this year that this team, loaded with the talent that it had been told it had, just felt that it could get by on that alone. And just forgot on too many occasions what it takes to be successful over the course of an 82-game season. Felt, as we all do, whether it's writing an exam or preparing a paper for college, that you can leave it to the last second and you'll figure it out and you'll be able to get it in and get a good grade. If you procrastinate too much, sometimes you're going to run out of time, and that's what happened to this team. They simply could not turn it on. And that, to me, is simply a result of the fact that they didn't turn it on enough during the regular season, and they didn't really know how to turn it on.
Shorty, I'm going to pull a McKeach and make an on-air request that this not be the end of our on-air relationship, and I'm going to hit you up for another talk sometime in the next week regarding playoff pools or something. I can't do it right now.
Playoff pools?
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do this now.
I'm not coming on to talk about playoffs.
Okay, I'll figure out a topic. Shorty, thanks for the time today. Appreciate it.
I could maybe give you just a review of Lower Mainland golf courses.
That would work for me. We'll do that in the 11 o'clock hour. Thanks, man.
Hey, Blake.
John Shorthouse from the Canucks broadcast booth. One little bit of business left for John Shorthouse this season. That is Saturday night versus the Colorado Avalanche. I really wonder what you, the Canuck fan, are going to do if you're in GM Place on Saturday night. Stick around. Your calls are next. 604-280-MOJO, 280-6656, star 692 on your cell phone, or 1-866-444-6656. I'm going to try to scrounge up some playoff tickets for the Giants if I can. And we'll hear more from you when we come back. This is the Canucks Lunch on your hockey station in Vancouver, Mojo Sports Radio 730.
Marcus Naslund says it's over.
We knew it now going down the stretch that it was a possibility, but I thought we would be able to pull it off.
It's pretty early now, but can you think at all about the future and what may lie in this organization?
No, I think I don't even. I don't even want to think about that. I think
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Jim Mora, but he just kind of close your eyes. Does kind of sound like Mark Crawford. Appropriate at this point. 604-280-MOJO, 280-6656, star 692 on your cell phone, or 1-866-444-MOJO. The floor is yours once more. By the way, this just in. with, of course, the Canucks not making a run in the playoffs, their season coming to an end on Saturday. A couple of players from the roster will be getting some postseason action at the AHL level. Josh Green and Alexander Burrows will be joining the Moose for their run at the Calder Cup beginning a week from tonight in Syracuse. No word yet on when they get back and if they get back for tomorrow night's game, or if they'll be in Canuck colors for tomorrow night. But there you go. Josh Green and Alexander Burrows do get some playoff action. Good for Burrows to get that experience, even if it is at the AHL level. There you go. 604-280-MOJO. Again, the number to call. Let's talk about the season, the night that was here for the Vancouver Canucks. And my computer is very slow here. Arif, tell me who's on line one. Oh, Gary. Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Blake. I saw the game last night. I'm not going to even go into it because I think everybody and their dog's going to talk about that. I want to talk about what's going to happen on Saturday. And I'm actually a marketing agent for a number of people in the Tri-Cities area. I'm about to go to work, but I wanted to say something about what's going to happen on Saturday. If I was the organization, I would have Naslund be at center ice with a letter from Dave Nonis, because Dave Nonis shouldn't say it. I think Naslund should say it. And he should apologize for what's happened. Let the fans know that they appreciate their the club appreciates the fans' patience, because I'm not a season ticket holder, and I would never be a season ticket holder the way Dave Nonis handled the injuries and the goaltending situation. But that's a different story altogether. And I would then give the fans something that's worthwhile for the kids to take home, and let it go at that, and see what happens next year. But
stranger things have happened. I mean, we've seen teams in all sorts of sports do that kind of thing. Have the GM, have the captain say something. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I mean, it's an option. I don't know that it would do much for a lot of fans. But it's a possibility, I suppose. 604-280-MOJO, 280-6656, star 692 on your cell phone. Mark, go ahead. You're on the Canucks lunch.
I'm not very happy with the head coach. Mark Harper's has to go. I think he will be gone by next week.
You think he'll be gone by next week?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Heads will roll that quickly, you think?
Yeah.
And what will follow behind that? Does that mean they keep the players and just get rid of the head coach, or is it a house cleaning on the roster as well?
But Tuesday be going too.
Okay. I mean, that's been a lot of theories. Part of a lot of the theories is who goes, Bertuzzi or Crawford or both. It's possible. I have a feeling they go one or the other, and I have a feeling it's going to be the other, not the first thing out of his mouth there. But again, I'm done predicting and saying that this is what is going to happen. This team refuses to go along with any sort of theories. Graham, go ahead. Welcome to the lunch.
Hey there.
Hey, Graham, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I don't know why everybody has a foredrawn conclusion that there's a problem between Bertuzzi and Crawford. I've never heard anything from the horse's mouth on that.
Well, there was a quote in paper, a week or two ago, a week and a half ago, I guess, of Bertuzzi saying that the big line hasn't been kept together because that's not his decision. That's the guy behind the bench's decision, and you know how I am with that guy or something like that. So people were reading between the lines there, Graham.
Well, okay. I mean, the coach has to do something to get the wagon going, and it wasn't going the way it was. I have to say that I think that you look at their record pre-injuries to Kluche, Oland, and Jovo, and then you look at their record post-injuries, and Nonis failed his first real test as his GM. Crawford was given the tools he was given sort of a half a deck of cards and said, here you go. And I think that we can't blame Crawford for everything. I mean, I think that Nonis has to take some responsibility. Sure, he's a rookie GM, but he had a challenge and he didn't really come through.
Graham, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's move on. Dave, go ahead. Welcome to the lunch.
This is me. Thanks for the call. Just wanted to point out As far as tomorrow's game, for Saturday's game, I'm feeling really bad for guys like Trevor Linden and for the Sedins and Carter, who had a really great season, and it's going to be a real downer for them to have to go through that thing tomorrow. And I suppose they probably do have the player awards tomorrow as well, do they not?
I'm not sure. Do they do the player awards tomorrow as well? They do the jerseys off the backs and apparently do the player awards as well. Reef, you're nodding.
Yeah, so that's going to be a very awkward situation for a lot of the guys, well, all the team, but I feel really badly for guys like Linden and Sedins and Carter. But as far as, the rest of the team, I think that you have to look at the way they play defensively in their own end. That I think that time and time again, all those turnovers, something has to be addressed in the coaching aspect there. I think even if it's the guy in charge of the defense, that guy's got to go, because they have not improved one iota in that respect. Even bringing in Carney, it still didn't make a difference.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. 604-280-MOJO, 280-6656, star 692 on your cell phone, or 1-866-444-MOJO. Billy, go ahead. Welcome to the line. Hey.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's I think it's Crawford. It has to be the first one to go. I think he's a great coach. I think he's worn out his welcome here. One of the things I noticed, Carney's not a bad defenseman, and Weinrich played far better in St. Louis. I think the system, there's something wrong with the system they're using. You can't take a defenseman like Keith Carney, bring him here, and all of a sudden he's that bad of a defenseman. He's a good defenseman. I can't figure it out. And I think it's a system. I think if you don't get rid of Crawford, I don't think you have a hope in heck of getting Jovanovski back here either. I really don't. Or Linden. Now, I really believe that Linden's had enough of him, and I think Jovanovski's a key guy you have to keep.
Well, I know nothing of the dynamic between Trevor Linden and Mark Crawford, but if I'm putting myself in Trevor Linden's shoes, I agree with you. It took 79, 80 games for Trevor Linden to get 15 minutes of ice time. It's brutal. Brutal treatment of the best Canuck of all time. I can't believe it. Down the stretch, that Trevor Linden isn't being utilized in a more prominent role was a questionable move for sure. One of the more blatant questionable moves from Mark Crawford. I've defended Mark Crawford a lot here, and looking back, there are definitely some missteps. I think he again is down the priority list for me. Not as far down as Alex Auld. We've gone down that road a zillion times, but definitely there has been some missteps from Mark Crawford, and I think that was definitely one of them. So I agree with you in that regard. 604-280-MOJO. Bobby, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going. I just called because I had a bit of a theory, and I just wanted to kind of run it by you and see what you think.
Okay.
I was basically thinking that like every good thing has kind of a formula, whether it's a hit song, a hit movie, or whatever, and even a good, a winning hockey team. And I was thinking that a lot of owners in the NHL, not just NHL teams, I would say just NFL teams, NBA teams, there's certain owners that understand what makes a winning team and certain owners that don't. And, I kind of even would rank things as, I would say the number one most important thing, which is kind of obvious, is, having a good general manager, because, your team could either finish first or last place depending on the GM.
Yep.
Second thing that I think is the most important is you really need to have a top 5 all-star goalie to take you far. I mean, the last non-all-star goalie to win a Stanley Cup was probably Tom Barrasso. Every goalie after that has been, a superstar goalie. And third thing, would say probably the coach, and then which is pretty self-explanatory. And then comes your defense, and then finally your offense. But I think that a lot of owners don't really understand that formula. I think that they probably rank their forwards and their goal scorers as one of the most important things, but it really isn't if you look at it. I think that the superstar all-star goalie is definitely one of the most important things.
Would you give failing grades then to Dave Nonis and Alex Auld? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I think Ald's an average goalie. I mean, an average goalie, he's good, but he's not going to win you a Stanley Cup. I mean, you
not now or not ever.
I don't know. He has some potential, but I wouldn't. I would say they need to get someone like a Luongo or someone like a top 5 goalie in the league. I mean, Auld is maybe a top 15, maybe.
Okay, forget Alex Auld. How about Dave Nonis? To me, it's an incomplete grade, but you're already critical of him.
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say that, the whole Joe Thornton thing, you got to know that, he didn't even know that he was available. You got to know those things. A good GM needs to at least, do a little bit of research and find, maybe he couldn't have got him. Maybe, but, at least he should at least know who's out there. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure that kind of stuff out,
Bobby, got to go. Thanks for the call. Interesting list of priorities because the top two are not my top two priorities, but that's what we're looking for here. Your opinions on what's happened so far this season. Chris, you're next. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, Blake.
Hey.
Hey, I feel sorry for you guys. You got to push the Whitecaps now with the.
No, what are you talking about? We've got
that's the big team in town for you guys. But anyway.
Well, no, the Vancouver Giants are making a Memorial Cup run here, so
I'm just being facetious.
Yeah, well, we got stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Hey, the five guys that I think are priorities are the two Sedins, Salo, Jovanovski, and Auld. And not too high on Carter. I think, as Seda said about Blair McDonald one year, Fire Hydrant can score 50 goals with Gretzky, and I think that too about him. He's okay, and the other thing, I lost my confidence in Crawford the last two nights because of Thornton was just eating up Oland, and he kept putting him out there against him every shift. And I would have changed that up for sure.
Thanks for the call, and I'm with you. You've heard me being rather supportive of Mark Crawford all season long, and I'm with you in that the last week has left a sour taste in my mouth as well. George, go ahead.
Yeah, what's going to happen to you guys after the summer?
What do you mean after the summer?
Well,
the next NHL season begins.
I understand. Yeah, I know. Isn't that the truth? Imagine July the 1st, we'll still playing bloody hockey.
Yeah, we will be talking hockey on July the 1st for
but
sure.
But anyway,
yeah,
like your company.
Yes, well,
has lost the rights, right?
Well, the rights were on CKNW. Mojo Sports Radio is sports talk radio, and we'll continue to do that. Thanks for the call, George. We'll be just fine, and the Canucks lunch will live on. I got to take a quick break. When we come back, more of your phone calls, 604-280-MOJO, 280.
The dream is dead for the Canucks, folks. One game remaining, but it's meaningless now. The Edmonton Oilers have secured the final playoff spot in the Western Conference as the Canucks lose for the sixth time in 7 games, falling 5-3 here in San Jose.
Even a child of 4 could see that changes need to be made. Leadership and chemistry are both question marks.
Autopsy, if you will. Brett, go ahead. I hope we're doing this in order. Reeve, Brett, go ahead. You're on the lunch.
Hey, thanks, Blake. A few minutes ago you were just making a comment about, supporting Crawford through the season, but in the last week or so it's left a sour taste in my mouth. I completely agree with that. I don't know if it's just opening my eyes in the last little while, but I can definitely see how things have gone, and I have real concerns of how that's happened. But more to the point, I don't understand how how guys are coming on here and just ripping into Nonis and saying that he's the big fault and he's got to take all this blame and so on. He came into the season with what a lot of people in the media and what a lot of people were considering as a good core of players, a team that should have contended on paper as it was, and not us being in this position at this point. Now the team takes 2 crippling injuries to your top defenseman, easily your top defenseman in Jovanovski, and your starting goaltender in Cloutier. But prior to this, Nonis has already made his word to the team that he's going to keep the core together one final season and give them that chance to try and do what they were not able to the previous year. So if he goes out and he starts ripping the core apart, what is that telling about his, what his word is worth and what his value is? So for guys to come on here and start saying that, he should have known about Thornton or he's just got to pull the trigger on Luongo and all this, I don't buy that. I think that's just garbage, and that's just sour grapes now. The fact that we're done and we're finished. So there's no sense in going on and kicking the guy while he's down, and the fact that we're where we are. But that's my take.
For a lot of this season, thanks for the call, Brett. And by the way, that wasn't my brother, Brett, but he does make a lot of sense. For a lot of this season, Dave Nonis was damned if he did and damned if he didn't break up the core. If he did break up the core, people will be saying, you should have given them one last chance to do this. I mean, come on. Look at this. Look at the talent on this team. Give them one last run together. And if he didn't, then, he didn't. And now we're hearing criticism. Mike, go ahead. Welcome to the lunch.
Hello there. I just have a couple opinions about this. I think that, first of all, Crawford's not going anywhere. And I think that what's going to happen here is there's going to be some changes to, I think Bertuzzi needs a change of scenery, and I think everybody kind of agrees with that. But I don't think Crawford's going to go anywhere until probably December or January of next year. If whatever changes they do, he doesn't turn it around at that point, then they might look at another coach. But the guy's the most successful coach that they've ever had, so it's hard for me to imagine that Nonis is going to do that. But on the second thing, this is now Nonis' team, and now he's got to go out, and it's going to be a true test for him to do something now with this team and make some changes. And I know there's plenty of teams out there that will be willing to pick up some of these players. And I also know that all season long, Brendan Morrison has been the whipping dog of Crawford, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone. You also have to look at, I know that Matt Cook was hurt a lot, but he's also making a lot of money for what he did this year, and there's a possibility that he could go away also.
No, there's a lot of possibilities. Thanks for the call. And what you said about Mark Crawford, I mean, I'm through predicting, but I'll throw this out as another possibility. Maybe these core guys that people are calling for their departure during the summer, maybe they have more value once the season is underway, and maybe Dave Nonis looks to trade, let's say, Todd Bertuzzi a month into the season. Let him try to up his trade value just in case Todd Bertuzzi has an epiphany during the summer and can maybe get more for him a month into the year. Just a thought. I mean, I'm done predicting, but maybe that's an approach. I don't know why I even said that. Justin, go ahead. Welcome to the lunch.
Good afternoon, Blake. I want to take exception with one of the comments that you made when you were talking with Shorty earlier in the show, in that you said you didn't want people calling in saying, who are at the beginning of the season, oh, this team, it's not made for back. And the reason is it's been painfully obvious to me ever since the Minnesota disaster in 2003 that I'm not talking about the core, I'm specifically talking about the goaltending position in Vancouver was never going to win a Stanley Cup. And this isn't an indictment of Alex Auld because the guy played fantastically for the amount of money we're committing to him from the cap. The guy's a quality number 2. But the problem with this core has always been the goaltending. So what I'm leading into is that this is an indictment, from my perspective, of Dave Nonis because he never upgraded the goaltending position. He gave Kluche a big fat contract when Kluche really hadn't proved that he could perform in the playoffs, and the object of the exercise, as you stated at the beginning of the season, was to win a Stanley Cup. The goal was never just to get into the playoffs. The goal was to win a cup, and for me, the goaltending position had no chance in heck of winning a Stanley Cup from the beginning. So I think what Dave Nonis needs to address this offseason is to go out, take a look at some of our bigger, higher-priced salary players, see if he can move them, and let's go out and get a legitimate number 1 goaltender, because history's proven that Chris Osgood, Red Wings notwithstanding, you can't win a Stanley Cup without a legitimate, stud, high-caliber goaltender. And we ought to be the first issue to be addressed in the offseason.
Well, I'll say there's a crack of light in your argument. There's elements in which I would agree with you. The argument against, or the argument for Dan Cloutier in keeping him was also fairly strong. I mean, granted, there's a history of playoff disappointment, but a lot of that playoff disappointment, a lot of that residue in your mouth regarding Dan Cloutier's playoff performance is actually his playoff absence, the fact that he's been injured. And that has put a lot of people off in saying that he's not a playoff goaltender. Nick Lidstrom's goal notwithstanding. This is a guy that has stats in the last 3 years going into this year. So back in September, we're looking at Dan Cloutier's resume and saying he has statistics that rival only Martin Brodeur. Only Martin Brodeur. And again, that's regular season. But there were caveats regarding his playoff resume. And for that, I think a lot of people were saying, you know what? Okay, one last chance for you, Dan Cloutier. One last chance. And yes, there was an argument against giving him that one last chance, but at the same time, a fair human being would have also, I think, said, okay, maybe one last chance. And for, a guy that has been very good to this organization, very loyal, and we've heard it all this week, that it's good to have him back in the room. He's a good guy in the room. I think a lot of people wanted to give Dan Cloutier one last chance. And that's what they tried to do, and of course, we know it didn't work out. But a good call. Mark, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing
Not
today?
too bad.
Just wanted to say, Brian Burke, this season's over, so let's just move on. Brian Burke did it to us. He took Randy Carlyle, made him the coach. What about Stan Smil? What about Paul Maurice? What about Ted Nolan? Hey, there's a coaching change coming up. I'm pretty sure of that, and I think so are you. What do you think of those names? And what do you think about Dave Nonis doing that, making this his team, and going, listen, this is my guy, and if he fails, I'm responsible. I think Stan Smil and the Moose can get a new coach and bring Stan up and see what he can do for us.
Well, you know what? It all depends on what kind of team you have. As far as bringing in guys like Ted Nolan, I've heard Andy Murray's name mentioned. It depends on what kind of roster you have. It depends on what kind of head coach you want to bring in. Different rosters demand different kinds of head coaches, of course. I mean, that's obvious. So it all depends on what Dave Nonis does to this current roster. I think would depend heavily on what kind of head coach he would bring in, if he is indeed bringing in a head coach at all. And Ted Nolan is a player's kind of coach. You want to make sure that you've got good guys in the room, maybe moldable guys in the room, guys that are responsible as well and don't need to be X's and O's coached to death and yelled at to death. So those are good names for sure. There's guys available out there. There's probably as good a crop of unemployed coaches as we've seen in a long time. But it all depends on what kind of players they bring in. Would they actually work with Mark Crawford better than any of those guys? Because a lot of callers that we're getting today, remember, are saying, hey, Mark Crawford's a good coach, but just not with this team. Not with this team anymore. Well, what if this team changes? Maybe that team all of a sudden becomes a good team for Mark Crawford. Got some emails to run through as well from today. People obviously, a little bit emotional after this day. One email quoting Vince Lombardi: winning is not a sometime thing, it's an all-time thing. You don't win once in a while. You don't do the right thing once in a while. You do them right all the time. Winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. That's from Vince Lombardi in a timely quote. But this from Brent in Victoria. Can't help but relate this quote to the Canucks. Their habitual poor play and willingness to accept moral victories has been sickening. The robotic and politically correct BS out of the mouths of Morrison, Naslund, Crawford, and others all season has been painful to listen to. Dave Nonis should have already made first contact with Brent Sutter, as we are desperate for the accountability that a Sutter demands. Just my 2 cents from Brent in Victoria. A lot of desperate callers today. A lot of desperate voices again last night. And we heard in that email the robotic and politically correct BS out of the mouths of the players. Well, last night after the game, the players had their last chance to talk about the season and the disappointment that was.
Fault with our effort tonight. I thought our guys battled their tails off, and they all played a real hard brand of hockey. We didn't get any bounce that went our way tonight. They did, and that oftentimes is the difference in the game.
That's been one of the reasons why we're not in the playoffs. No doubt about it. We've been too undisciplined and way too many penalties. We gave a good effort. I don't know if it's just not good enough to get the job done.
I don't even know how to explain it. It's not a very good feeling right now. I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, terrible. I mean, down the stretch. And ultimately, that's, I think, what did us in. Personally, the lowest point in my career professionally, and I'm sure a lot of other guys feel the same way. I mean, not only do we let each other down in the organization, the whole city of Vancouver, and it's not a very good feeling.
You know, bringing everything, and you know, you feel for a lot of guys in here what they had to go through, and you know, how hard they kept working, and no matter what.
Whenever we won hockey games, we had good discipline. We stayed out of the box. We competed hard. We played hard 5-on-5. Well, we were the team that had more power plays, and whenever we lost hockey games this year is because, you know, we took too many penalties, and you know, it's way too taxing on our players.
There you have it. The last time you'll hear those sort of quotes, I think, from the Canucks. Different tone, I'm sure, coming out of Saturday's game versus the Colorado Avalanche, a game that, as we know now, means nothing. When we come back, one last chance for you to sound off before we get to the Friday Farm Report today and wrap up this holiday edition, Friday edition of the Canucks Lunch. So stick around. 604-280-MOJO, the number to call, star 692 on your cell phone, or 1-866-444.
Listening to the Canucks Lunch on Mojo Sports Radio 730 in association with PokerRoom.tv. Once again, here's Blake Price.
Canucks clear the puck again with 18 seconds to go on the power play. Here's a long stretch pass. Thornton moving in on the right wing. Joe Thornton centers the puck. Quick shot, score! Matt Carl! On another Another beautiful setup by Joe Thornton. And now the Canucks are on life support, trailing 4-3 in a game that must provide at least a point.
It did not. 5-3 the final last night in San Jose. The season is over. By the way, if you're curious, the Canucks lunch will live on all summer long. Will be your hockey station as your home of the NHL playoffs is Mojo Sports Radio 730. So don't worry. The Canucks lunch will live on, even though this is the first or the last of the in-season editions of the Canucks lunch. The lunch does live on. So you know where to dial every day at high noon here in the Lower Mainland and on the island, of course. 604-280-MOJO, 280-6656, star 692 on your cell phone, or 1-866-444-6656. We have the Friday Farm Report, and lots to talk about then with Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Sun, as a couple of the Canucks are heading down to the farm on a playoff assignment. Alex Burrows and Josh Green, at the very least, will be going down for some playoff experience in the AHL this season. Lots of other stuff to talk about as well, but we want to speak with you for a few more minutes, and we'll also try to get in a little bit of Steve Tambolini from the morning show as well. But Dan, you were waiting patiently. Welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. You guys' job just got a lot harder, didn't it?
Well, I don't know. The end of a season provides a lot of fodder to talk about. There's a lot, there's a lot to talk about with the Vancouver Canucks still, so I don't know if it got harder or easier, actually.
Yeah, well, it's mostly going to be post-mortems, I guess, from here on. Somebody brought up the subject of Brent Sutter as the new Canucks coach.
Yeah, well, it was an email, yep.
I'm not all that keen on that. The team he was coaching finished dead last in the WHL last year, and he took a month off in the middle of the season, even though the team was kind of struggling, was just on the border of the playoffs. He took a month off to coach the World Juniors, which is a lot better for his resume, I suppose.
Yep.
But wasn't so great for his team. And they actually did better while he was away than when he was coaching them. Their percentage-wise, their record was a little better.
I'm not ready for a Sutter myself as a member of the media. I'm not really anxious.
They're not the most colorful guy, or they're not the most loquacious, are they?
No.
Yeah. That's basically that's my point. I think there's probably going to be a certain push because he's got a high profile with the World Juniors, and but that's a big drawback to me. I thought it was pretty disappointing.
Dan, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. As I said, I'm not ready for Sutter, and he's just one of many names. I mean, there's a lot of names that are out there. A lot of potential NHL head coaches right now. So, Greg, go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, Blake.
Anytime.
I'd like to think out of the box just a little bit and go back to the caller who's a marketing expert. I really like the idea of having perhaps Naslund, even Nonis for that matter, come out and read an accountability statement to the fans at GM Place on Saturday night. I think they have that obligation, and they haven't done a great job of communicating it in the media. But I think that would go a long way to at least assuaging some of the sentiments and the feelings about what's happened.
They've done it before. I think it's a good idea too. The more I hear, the more we're talking about it. I like it. I think it's a very good idea. Do we cut Greg off? Greg, keep on going.
Okay. If I were in Crawford's shoes right now, I think I would think fairly seriously about resigning. Now, he can do it in such a way that Nonis and he come to an agreement on what a package might be. But I don't think there's any question that Crawford is going to be seen to be one of the architects of this failure. And yes, he has been a successful coach in Vancouver, and I think well-loved in the past. But right now, I mean, your callers, and I agree with all of them, is we've got to shed some names, Crawford and Bertuzzi being two, of course. So something that he does, it gets a little proactive and says, thanks very much, I'm sorry we couldn't have done better, I'm on to my next assignment.
Again, pretty good. If you're going to do it, that's a nice way to do it for sure. I'm not convinced that Mark Crawford is necessarily going anywhere. I'll just move on. Bernie, go ahead. Welcome to the lunch, Bernie. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I've been season's ticket holder since 1989, and so this is pretty frustrating. But, I just have a couple of comments. One is I think I agree with some of the callers. Crawford and Bert should go. And, it's not Bert's fault, really. I mean, what he's been through is I don't know any player in any sport could go put up with what he's had to put up with as far as, the booing. And, I mean, that's tough to take, and I think it's really hurt his play. But I think he will be better off just leaving the Canucks. The other thing I wanted to say is that I didn't agree with your comment on Kluche. I think those 2 years prior to the lockout, the team had a chance to go a long ways in the playoffs, and I think Kluche he had one of the worst goals against averages, those 2 years, and I think that, a team doesn't have a chance to really go very far for a very long window of time, And,
he didn't have one of the worst goals. He had 2.4, in 02-03, and he had a 2.27, I think, in 03-04. That's not one of the worst.
Well, I mean, in the key games, though, I mean, yeah, he played a few good games, but in the key games he fell apart. When we really needed him to stand up, he didn't do it. And, I'm strongly against him being the number one goaltender.
Well, I think he might have worn out his welcome, but my point then was on October the 5th of 2005, there was still a decent argument, not an overwhelming argument, but there was a decent argument for letting Dan Cloutier have one more kick at the can. That's all I was saying. But Bernie, before we let you go here, I wanted to ask you, as a season ticket holder, you said, and we've sort of done an informal poll as the days have clicked on here, is there anything that would make you not renew your season tickets?
Well, we have them corporately, so, I mean...
Okay, that's different.
It's, it's important to our customers and who get used to using them, but, if I was personally having holding the tickets myself, I'd want to see them, improve next year, by making some changes. I think, get a new coach in there, improve the defense, and I agree with making Jovanovski captain as well, but... that would make me keep my season's tickets. But other than that, if they don't improve next year and they don't make the playoffs, no way.
Bernie, thanks for the call. I mean, that's always the refrain, I think, of season ticket holders. It's their faith is there's always next year, and you never want to let go, especially considering the huge lineup for season tickets in Vancouver. You never want to let go of your spot because there's always next year. and I'm not saying that's wrong. That's how tough it is to let go of season tickets, and that's why the Canucks, don't have to worry about filling the barn because there's always going to be demand, it seems. Marco, thanks for the call. Welcome to the Canucks Lunch. Go ahead.
Hey, Blake. How's it going?
Not bad.
Good. I'm just listening to some of these callers, and obviously when you brew things down and you examine what happened here is that Crawford and Bertuzzi, the whole situation is obviously way worse than it was first indicated, and it affected the dressing room to a point that these guys could not get their jam together to get it done here. Having said that, it's sad that they had to obviously get eliminated now, but there is another team in town, the Giants, and they should just look at basically retooling this whole team and bringing in young kids if they have to, because they work hard and they skate hard, and these veterans, some of them, they just don't do it.
Marco, thanks for your thoughts. Appreciate it. Alec, go ahead. You're on the lunch.
How you doing, Blake?
Good, thanks.
My wife and I are season ticket holders, and I want to make a couple of comments here. First of all, I was one of, and I hate to say hindsight's 20/20 or I was right, but I certainly, I like how the media guys, you guys all back each other up, even if you don't work together. I think there's three media guys, and I find it, frankly, I find it appalling. And there's three guys in particular in town who should go rent shattered glass and really look at themselves in the mirrors because they're dishonest. And I'm not going to get into who they are. Okay. But there's stuff that happens in this town, and it's we have Canuck wives that sit beside us in all year. And they're people, too, and understand this, I'm not a Pollyanna, but I just think it goes too far in this town with the media. And the reality is, from the very start, I never wanted to re-sign Naslund. I think he's a great, talented hockey player. But in the new NHL, when you're putting that kind of money out, and the guy wears the C, and if I was a captain, I would never ask for a no-trade clause in my contract, because if it wasn't working out, I'd want my butt out of town. And the reality is, with this club, the whole culture since Berkey left, I mean, you got a guy that has been offered the president's job, and he's running a part-time gig and what I mean by part-time, what happens in 2010 when the Olympics are over? They're gone. So Cobb is from here, born and raised, Burnaby boy, and he won't be the president of the Vancouver Canucks, who are going to be here long after 2010. This thing is culturally rotten at the core. It's not crow. It ain't known. Everyone's done things wrong. Everyone has to be accountable. But my point is, the core of culture of any business, hockey club, anything, is this thing is rotten.
What did the Canuck wives? What was that part of the story though?
I've sat there and listened to. My point is where our section is.
Yeah.
It's the part where a lot of the families sit.
Yeah.
And some of the things that get said, and it all perpetuates from. I've lived in Toronto. I've lived in Calgary. What comes out of print media and talk radio in this city is ridiculous. It's like Damien Cox times 12.
So you're saying the players were getting affected by what they were reading and hearing?
Well, what I'm saying is, first of all, I think it does. Don't take what I'm saying and move it around. What I'm saying is, what goes on outside the box, it's ridiculous what some of the guys have to put up with in this market. And when it affects, things that are just totally inaccurate. And what I'm saying is, it perpetuates down from the print and electronic media to the fans. And all of a sudden, you got fans phoning in on talk radio shows saying that I was told by a friend that Todd and Marcus missed a night out in Nashville. BS.
Yep.
Never happened. I was told that Mark and Crow had a fight at a dinner in Yaletown. BS. Never happened. Then you listen to it in the talk radio shows, and you got some guy at the rink 4 seats over from me, where I actually stood up and went over to him and said, "You know what? Why don't you shut up? You don't know what you're talking about." And I mean,
Alec, I gotta move on. I appreciate your passion, and you're right. I mean, that's irresponsible. If you hear rumors to that ilk, you have to sort through them and decide what are rumors and what are really worth pursuing. So, I mean, I try to ignore them all myself, and hopefully you're not including my name in the bunch. But I don't know. I'll have to chew on to that call. Let's move on. Where are we going here, Reef? Line 7. Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I guess I got a comment about I want to compare maybe Canucks, and it may be not fair, but ownership-wise to the man that owns Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
If you make a commitment to win,
yep,
it takes time, but they're starting to show the fruits of their labor.
Yep.
The Canucks kind of remind me of Harry Sinden and the Boston Bruins, where as long as you fill the stands and sell the tickets, we can just keep pulling the wool over everybody's eyes and say we're doing something. So if you want to make a Stanley Cup winner, I think it starts from ownership. That's my comment.
Lee, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Paul, go ahead. Welcome to the lunch.
Hi.
Hey.
I just wanted to say, I've listened to a lot of the calls about Crawford and Bertuzzi, and I think I agree Crawford's probably gone at the end of this season. He didn't do a great job coaching, and he probably has lost the room. But I think Bertuzzi's trade value is probably still so low that I'm not sure that the Canucks can afford to give him up for nothing. So you got to move somebody in the core, and I don't know who that's going to be. Maybe be someone like Morrison to shake up the core and say, "Hey, nobody's safe here."
Paul,
but,
thanks.
He probably has.
Thanks for the call. Sorry to cut you off, Paul. We're just gonna move on, and I'd say the one argument for still moving Bertuzzi, regardless of trade value, would be what Brian Burke did with Sergei Fedorov, and that sometimes you add by subtracting. Rob, finish us off here. Go ahead.
Hey, now that Canucks are done, we can talk about the Whitecaps in the future. Good actual team. But, just what you were talking about earlier about the season's tickets and how hard it'd be to get back in line. Just reminded me of something a couple of years ago a guy from Manchester United did. They actually went and checked. Over almost 40% of their season ticket holders are deceased. The families just kept sending in the checks because there's no way you can get back in the line to get tickets ever again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gone to that epidemic level here, but you're right. There are stories of franchises like that where you just pass it on and pass it on and pass it on because it is such a long lineup. I'll be interested to see what the renewal rate is like. Find out, I'd love to hear anecdotal evidence if you're on the waiting list, if you end up getting on, because people peel out of the stands in this summer. So that's something we'll have to keep track of as the summer rolls on. Thanks for all the calls today. Appreciate it. Lots to talk about, and I'm sure we'll hear more of it next week. But we'll also have to move on and just become hockey fans if we're going to still do this and get together en masse and watch playoff hockey. It will, of course, have to be cheering for another team, and we'll deal with that next week. Where do we move our allegiances to?